All right, hello everyone, welcome back to Crypto Warehouse. My name is Brogan, and today we're back for another trading stream. I'm going to start a timer before anything else, just to make sure. Been going good so far. I'm pretty happy. We've got some new tech today. All right, we've got some new tech. Now, I don't know how much I'm going to use this new tech, but I was, rummaging around my cupboards and whatnot, and I found the Holy Grail. And I thought, oh, I could use this in the video, but then I had a second thought. I thought, you know what? Let's try use it on the stream. So you might, if I just quickly do something, you might see magically appears on the screen drawings. Wow, isn't that amazing? So it means I can highlight stuff and do little diagrams as if magic. So we'll see what sort of tech we could probably add to today. I'm not promising any beautiful houses being drawn or anything like that, but we'll see how it goes. But anyways, thank you all for joining. Let me read the chat. Kishan obviously was first, as always. Hidden Agendas, thank you guys for being here. KB as well. Appreciate you guys being here and joining the stream. Now, let me just, there we go. I've also changed like my whole layout, so I'm now on the right hand side. I want to make sure I'm not like, I'm actually reading the right thing. But nonetheless, I'm pretty happy so far. I'm pretty happy with the charts. 116, 650 for Bitcoin. So, I mean, you know what? I'm also actually, I just realized my chop has been a bit, my chop's a bit wrong. Hold on, there we go. It's saying ETH. I need to make sure, because I literally, like, I realized I had to change my view on stream so you can actually see the drawings. We might do it, I might hide it, I'm not gonna lie. But I realized I'm just watching my stream as I'm talking to make sure everything's in place. But anyway, let's talk about percentages and prices and whatnot. 116638, not bad for Bitcoin. Obviously, we've been talking about this retracement quite high. I think it's going pretty well. I think across the board, obviously, we've been retracing Ethereum as well. Ethereum's actually gone up quite a bit as well, which has been quite nice. And Solana at 1699. I think majority across the board, prices we haven't really been surprised about or anything, or prices which are out of the ordinary. And obviously, Syrup as well is another one which is doing really, really nicely in comparison to what we've been talking about on last stream and obviously the stream before and whatnot. So pretty happy so far with the prices and how everything is going to the 24 hour, just to see what's going on, any great names or anything. I mean, I don't really care normally about this. I think the main thing for me is I miss 4chain. I don't know where it's gone. I don't really care to look into it. I don't see it anymore. It might be gone, actually. I don't even know. It might actually be gone completely. I never see it anymore. So that is sad. But anyway, this is I'm gonna move to the chart. Okay, that is filled. Okay, it's filled fine. Perfect. In the know, Chevron, appreciate you being here. Evening to you. Now, okay, I'm going to go to the chart here. Obviously, we've got the chart. Now, the way I think this is going to work, I don't think I'm going to use this. I was, practicing with it, not practicing with it, but I was using it before the stream, just to see if I could, would it be useful if I could draw stuff? So I'm not going to do it just yet. I'm not going to draw anything, but if the time comes, if we're talking, or if I'm talking, not weird, because I'm the one who's mostly talking, I'm talking constantly. If we're talking, and I think, okay, this is, something useful to do, then I will do it and I will draw something, but we'll see how it goes. Okay, but again, not wasting any time, jumping into the charts on Bitcoin. Again, 116,600 basically doing pretty well. Again, obviously what we talked about and left off with the last stream was basically coming up into this whole dispersion thing, magical area we left and whatnot when we were coming down anyway. To this area and doing our thing towards 112 into obviously optimum range for a low, which obviously was pretty good. Obviously we came down to this, so it's been pretty orchestrated so far. We come down to this area on our low anyway when we were having this big retracement into this main area, and then obviously we have now. I should probably shimmy this over, but there we go. Let me lock that. So again, you can see the bounces in between the two areas, especially with this low here and this high up here. So doing pretty well so far. Obviously not saying we are exactly hitting the high right now, but we can also see this massive wick. We've just kind of done this in this 4-hour candle, which is clearly a good sign. Clearly good that we've come into some of this. Obviously we can see it a bit better on the lower time frames as we are shimmying downwards. But what I also am interested to look at, I think this is the balance in between time frames. I think globally across the board, especially on the daily, we are in this, we are obviously, below the lows and going down. I think this is why I think Ethereum's a bit different. So we missed the Argon sign. I noticed that, no one is here. I don't know why no one is here. But, it is what it is. I think obviously we'll get onto Ethereum and Solana and Syrup as we go onto it, but I think across the board we were expecting moves up and finding support and finding areas below us. Obviously Bitcoin's had its low, Ethereum had its massive buy area. I think the difference between Ethereum and everything else is its positional. It's obviously how it's been printing and it's positional. I think it's a bit different. Whereas with Bitcoin, if you look at a daily, for example, anyway, you can kind of clearly see we've had this massive area. Obviously, the major low. I would consider this a major low, and obviously we have printed past it. If you even look at the 4-hour major print, and I'm not saying we haven't done that on Ethereum. I do want to actually go onto it to see for sure. But I think because even though we're at 3,800. The offset of our movement has been different. I think in Solana's case, we have already had, deeper movement. We obviously haven't had the full move. I don't think across the board we haven't had the full move. Bitcoin's still got a few areas below us, where we could potentially focus on, especially this initial move we had, and obviously certain areas below us. But the majority of it was sitting in between this 110 area. And if I dare get the pen out, I could even draw, a little circle around it, maybe, a little area. I don't know why the pen just stopped working then. We'll get to it, but I don't want. I'm scared of it. It's like a first meet. I want to, I want to use it when the time comes. I don't want to just, freeze the screen every 2 seconds and start drawing houses and stuff. We'll use it when we need to. But anyway, the main area anyway was this area. 116, obviously starting from about this 169 area, obviously dipping into it. We had our small areas on the 1 hour, which we have looked at previously. Obviously, we had lows. We had this area, which obviously I think I have drawn still somewhere. Yeah, this area on the 1 hour, which obviously we came to the midpoint of, had this low. We have these parts over here. We have this area, which we've come to here with this, obviously the optimum range with this 112k. We had this period below behind us as well here, where if I can please get the measuring tool, I would love to do that. There we go. You can see the midpoint also sitting in this blue area, so we can clearly see. Where's the thing gone? Oh yeah, I'm stupid. That's why. We can clearly see, the areas which we've been respecting and the areas we've been coming to. Obviously, this main area with this midpoint, which obviously we came to here. This area, the 112, we have had for a while now with this retracement tool, with this blue line sitting at about 112 here, which we, as I've already just said, with this nice area here. And we've kind of just been following that down. Obviously, we have the next one being about 197. But so far we've been following, and the main point I'm trying to focus on with what I've been saying is the difference, because in Ethereum's case, as we will get to, I will actually talk about Bitcoin in a second, but in Ethereum's case, it's been really strong. Like, I think out of everything I've seen so far, obviously I've only really been looking at Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, and obviously Syrup. So it's not been, a wide range of coins. I've been looking at everything. I'm not saying I have been looking at everything, but I think Ethereum is very different from everything else in the fact that the magnitude of our move coming from 2,700, 2,000 areas all the way up to this like 3,800, 3,000, whatever the max was again of Ethereum. These are crazy areas. And in terms of our move, we've had this massive support area, not really faltering in our move. Again, I mean, obviously Bitcoin's had the same thing, but Bitcoin's case, we've had that, retracement into it. Solana's case, we didn't have, we had a big move upwards, but it wasn't, I don't think it was at the full magnitude as Ethereum was. I think Ethereum's in this sweet, like a Goldilocks, where Bitcoin's, a bit older, where we've already had that big move, and we've had multiple moves downwards. Ethereum's been staying at that top end and really just sitting there and just like leaving the bottom, and hasn't really come into it like for example some of these lows we've had here, where it's kind of caved in the down movements, and we haven't really had that moment where we've formed this area. I should be using the pencil, I know, but actually no, I will use pencil. We haven't really had this area where we've had this main kind of part form, and then kind of just sit up here and not come back down into it. In Bitcoin's case, as we can see, we've had this, coming down into it multiple times over, coming into. I wish you could press B and draw the brush, but it just searches. That's kind of annoying, but anyway. But obviously in Bitcoin's case, as we've just alluded to, we've had these multiple lows as we've been coming down into. And what I'll actually do, a really cool tool I found in this little drawing thing, which is the reason why I wanted to use it today. I don't know how big they're going to be on the screen, but we can draw little numbers. I thought that was sick. I thought that was absolutely awesome. But we have these areas, these multiple lows which have come deeper and deeper into this massive move we had, which just brought us all the way from 108 all the way up to our high 123k. Again, I'm going to go to Bitcoin now, but you know, that's why I think Ethereum is a bit of a different dog right now, which I'm very interested to see how it obviously develops. But now going on to Bitcoin's TA. So where did we leave off? Well, it was about here, so about 10. So it was about here. Obviously, we were talking about we had this low, we had this move downwards, obviously coming into these previous areas. But obviously, the main one for me was, even though we are in a downtrend, and yet, we could be focusing on coming down here, we did look at these areas about 116. And one of the main areas which we talked about was 116. Obviously, talking about the main blue line being around 116.8 and having reason for that move. If I actually shimmy them over a bit more, I did not unlock the right thing. There we go. And then this area as well, which we have properly come to. So this it's kind of sitting in the middle of this area. There we go. So we had this resistance we were talking about as well. Let me shimmy this over. It was about on the bottom of that there. There we go. Like that. So how have we used this? So obviously we had resistance, obviously the midpoint, again midpoint or above, looking for coming down again, looking for areas below us. And again, I've said this as an idea, you know, on the past couple of streams anyway, being you know, the idea of speed distance time, in the fact that it's always a balance in between how you move to an area and what area you're moving to. So in this example, obviously, the area we've moved to has been this massive area, which was a resultant of our kind of final straw, which actually started to bring us down into this area, 112. So obviously, massive area here as the price is just getting absolutely pounded downwards into this 112 area. So clearly, this is going to be a high interest area, if you will, for Bitcoin. I'm not saying our move up hasn't been, but you can also kind of see the balance in between what we've done and what we haven't done, or what we've done and what we came to, in terms of magnitude of what's going to hold us, basically. Is this going to be really strong resistance? Is it going to be a strong sell area, whatever you want to say? Or is this going to be as strong enough of a support area where it doesn't actually stop us, or it does stop us, I mean, and we actually push upwards and actually get past this area? So I think, you know, we can kind of clearly see, you know, how are we responding to this area? How are we using this area? Well, we have been hovering, you know, we haven't really moved. We've had this, you know, really just sitting here. And this has been a really nice run upwards. Let me get the box tool. There we go. There we go. So if we draw this across, you can see we obviously wicked on this midpoint really nicely. We've formed this really great area for Bitcoin, for support anyway. Had a really massive run up. Obviously, you know, already been in an uptrend since that low, or basically since the low we were talking about, starting this move upwards, taking also all these old lows. So on the lower time frames, we are in this uptrend right now, so continuously moving upwards. But I think the difference for me is, even though on the lower time frames we are in this uptrend, you have to really bear in mind the bias and the strength, or not strength, but like how much higher time frames play into the price action. So obviously, and I've been saying obviously on the past like streams when we've been talking about this move down, obviously Thursday, Tuesday and whatnot, coming downwards, the main takeaway for me anyway has been utilizing higher time frame point of interest and really paying attention to, this isn't just a 1 hour move in this interim we've had before obviously having this massive retracement. This is now starting to be a daily time frame move. So yes, I'm still be looking at 15-minute and 1 hour. I'm still looking at these lower time frames, but we have to bear in mind this. You know, this is taking part in the massive move, like not just a little like 1 hour move or 1 hour setup which we've, you know, looked at or anything like that. It's genuinely a higher time frame thing to be focusing on. Obviously, having this massive run up, having this just really not doing anything here, and then having a big expansion downwards, and then having our retracement. So all we've done so far on the daily is have that massive expansion downwards, found a support point, or come into this buy area, found a low, and now we've started a retracement. This isn't expansion. This isn't too expansionary. You can see we've moved up, had a candle which moved down into this area. Now we're moving up again. In comparison to this area, massive candle, massive candle, massive candle. I know it's very messy to look at. I could probably even hide this. There we go. There we go. Obviously, we had this wick, but in terms of the actual expansionary move, there's not really anything. It's just this massive move here. But in comparison to our retracement, it's more you know, like there's lows, and it's not just a massive breakaway from 112k low, which has brought us right back up to 117. So for me, I think the balance in between how we have moved and how we're moving now is clearly a bit more expansionary downwards and then a retracement. Again, I've done this like last stream before, comparing these movements, for example, where you have these expansionary prices, and this is like, obviously in this case was downtrend. To be fair, actually, this is a bit of a bad. It's not actually a bad example because you can see it here. There's obviously there's price action, which is I don't know how to word it, but price action which is normal, I suppose, where it's like you have the expansion and small retraces. This is normal price action, and yes, you do have these wider expansions, and this is, I mean, to look at the context of the move, you're in a downtrend. So even though you have these inner trend there's a word for it, there's a phrase, not a phrase for it, there's a abbreviation for what I'm trying to say, but like internal move, if you will, where it is, really good movements, and then the wider trend, as you can see, is this kind of downtrend we've got, where the major highs and major lows are here. So clearly, we're going to continuously want to do major highs and major lows, but in this movement is very normal price action. Expansion, retracement, expansion, retracement. This is very normal price action. Same back here when we had this massive run, and this is really extreme anyway. Massive expansion. Small retracement. This is what these retracement expansions look like. So this is very similar. Again, these are obviously decent candles, but it's very similar as well in the fact that we have this expansion downwards, and now we're having this retracement where we are having these highs and lows as we come upwards, where eventually we're going to hit a stopping point and then continue downwards and have this continuous move. Now that we've come past this whole area, we've come past this low, we've come past this whole area, and now we're coming downwards and we're having this move. I mean, is there a chance that we kind of do this? I mean, again, it depends on the strength in which we've had these movements, and I can comment on what we're doing right now, and obviously on the 4 hour and whatnot, we are in this downtrend, and 4 hour daily, and obviously I know these time frames, it's not foolish, if you will, but it's not. You should try to both look at higher time frames and lower time frames respectively to see like a wider frame, because obviously at the same time, price action is one constant thing portrayed in multiple different ways, in the fact that you have multiple time frames: daily, 4 hour, 1 hour, 15, whatever. But I think it's great to kind of look at price in multiple different aspects and multiple different methods, whether it be lower time frame, higher time frame. I think what we can see with the higher time frame is we are clearly in this downtrend, and it's very clear cut, especially with the 4 hour, very clear cut downtrend. As we started this move, we've had this retracement, and yes, this is internal, and it's the same thing we just looked at back here, where yes, we have these internal moves, and yes, this is still downtrend. But even though we might have these phases relative to these move upwards, where okay, yes, in this move upwards, this is expansionary. Yes, we have come past this area. We are starting to really move upwards. But the general context of it, even though we have these inner trends, which obviously get broken from this move upwards, the general context is that we are in this move. Or obviously, there's probably different areas down here. For example, here it's like there might be phases, obviously expansion, retracement, where this is now an uptrend. You know what I mean? Like this, obviously, if you go to the 4 hour potentially as well. I don't know where I am anymore, but wait, let me draw some on it so I know where it is. There we go. So on the 4 hour, it's going to be, okay, yes, we have this downtrend, and then we have this move. But then you can see, obviously, low, and the high, and the low, and then we take it, and then we move past this high, and then we do a higher low, higher high. Yes, this is an uptrend, and if you just looked at it on the 4 hour, you could trade this as an uptrend. And yes, obviously, you could do the retracement tools. And you go, okay, cool, well, let's look for a retracement. We have formed this high. If we look at it on the 1 hour, let's say, in this, I don't know where I am anymore. There we go. If you come back to it, it's like, okay, cool, yeah, we've done our high. We can see we've started this move down. If you look at this low, and you can see once we print past this, you're now looking for the major retracement. You look back, we have a low here, and if you go back to the 4 hour, why does it keep taking me away? There we go. You go back to the 4 hour here, okay, cool. And then we look at a higher time, a relative higher time frame anyway. You look at what could you come to? What is here? Where is my square? There it is. You come to here, okay, cool. Well, obviously this is a major gap. You probably want to look at it on the 1 hour. You want to look at it on multiple time frames to find reason, if you will. So in this case, we do actually have really crappy little areas, but we do have these lows. For example, we have these kind of quite close lows you can look at. But once you get past this red area, you're then looking to see obviously the long and the reversal. Obviously in this case, I know I'm doing Alt TA. I should probably stop doing this. There's no reason. This is old stuff. There's nothing you can act on. But obviously in this case, you look at this. You're like, okay, this is clearly a massive expansion. We're not really getting above this. Obviously, you move upwards. This is actually very similar to what Bitcoin's done right now. I know this is Bitcoin. I know, but in terms of right now, kind of where it's like we've had this expansion, maybe a bit more drastic than this, and then we've had this really crap, move, and then we've had expansion downwards, and it's like, well, if we kind of look at this, obviously I know the resultant on this was this massive hoverage, and then we moved upwards. The reason for that is because this was this wasn't a very good price section, and we didn't have much resistance up here, and this is also the 1 hour, whereas obviously as we just looked at on the 4 hour, this is uptrend. You know what I mean? This was downtrend, but this is uptrend still, so we're still looking for that reversal. But we're reversing now, so it's not the same thing. But in this case, it's the same thing where it's like in the same thing in the sense that we're looking at the on a lower time frame. This is an uptrend, but if you're just looking at the 1 hour or the 50-minute, there's no point looking at this because you don't know what's actually going on the wider time frame. So that's why I want to actually pay attention to both wider time frame and lower time frame. And even though on the lower time frame we're starting an uptrend, and yes, we're continuing that, we want to pay attention to higher time frame points of interest to see if we reverse from these areas or find major resistance. And for me, this is this area, because until we print that green candle, which we have done, this is our area. So it could be as high as 100, 118, 117 in this area. But obviously, as we look at it in more context on the 4 hour, which is still in a downtrend, we obviously have our major area, and the gap is also a bit higher relative to the 4 hour candles, and you can see the midpoint is this area, and we have started the wick from here. We also come down, and we're starting to kind of slow down a bit, and obviously it's the balance in between this area and this area, but clearly we are in a higher time frame point of interest, not only on the 4 hour, but it's also slightly translates to the daily, as there is technically this daily gap here as well. So we are in daily 4 hour point of interest to look for reversal downwards. So yes, even though we could be potentially forming support on the 1 hour, we found this area, we're just hovering at this area. We haven't really responded from this area in the sense that, yes, we have hovered and then we've come down, and now we're starting to, peak up a bit with these candles. We haven't really, formed this area. Why have I drawn it here? Is it the 50-minute? Yeah, that's why. The same thing for the 1 hour though as well. It's like we have this, major gap, and it's like, yes, we have formed this, but you kind of see it more over here. I just punched the mic, where it's like you form these areas and then you come down into it and then you come up. In this case, we haven't really done anything like that. We're kind of hovering a bit, and I think that is because we're mainly in this high time frame resistance point where we're actually, if I was to just look at the 4 hour, and obviously that's why I want to look at both 4 hour daily and the 1 hour 15-minute. If I was to just look at the 4 hour and daily, I would just say clear and cut. Okay, this is resistance. I'm gonna look for chance that we're shorting, and in that case I would want to go to 50 minutes. So that's why I want to look at both higher time frame and lower time frame. So we do have to bear in mind, even though I'm looking at this, we have this massive move upwards, and obviously the 50-minute whatever massive move upwards, we work back into midpoint, and now we're kind of doing our thing where we've got this print past here on the, with these highs, or even if you look at the general print, we have this down, we have this the chance. I mean, this isn't really a pan or anything like that, but it's like, okay, we've kind of clearly had this, we did have this print, massive expansion downwards to fill this, and now we've kind of come upwards, and now we're we've printed past this. So it's not to say this is now an uptrend, but it's starting to try and retrail back up a bit, and move up a bit, but also paying attention to the fact that we had this massive expansion downwards, which then we've retraced back up into, come down, and then we have all these highs as well, which are sitting kind of together as well, in this general 116.5 area, and now we've filled the entire thing. So it could be a sense, not that we're in an uptrend, but now we're just filling this area. But I don't really want to look at the 15-minute. It's not really, it's, unless I was trading it on the 15-minute, I don't want to be looking at that. So that doesn't really play into effect on the 1 hour, unless we're actually seeing a reversal right now. I don't really care about 50-minute too much in this case. So what I will go as low as the 1 hour, and we can see, yes, okay, we've had this print above, but we needed this retracement. And what is a retracement? It's going to be an uptrend regardless. So even though, yes, we are printing upwards, we are on this uptrend, I'm still looking to see if we're having this this reversal, as we've alluded to with the daily, as I was trying to give the point of where there we go, where all we're doing, even on the daily, on a more obfuscated level, all we're doing, we've had this massive move downwards with these massive candles, especially this one as well, and now we're just retracing to do probably a lower high and then come down again. So this is more of a start of a longer term thing. As we are on the daily, this is a start of a longer time frame thing. So yes, we can look at these 50-minute 1 hour, but realistically, this is more of a higher time frame thing, as I said last stream. So now I'm actually going to say something which is of value, hopefully, in terms of what I think. I think we're near the point of where a reversal could be. Again, the structure of this is, okay, we're coming deep into these candles. This whole area here. I would love to get the measure tool. There we go. This whole area here, and you can even see we're actually close to the midpoint here at 116. This whole area here, obviously you can look at individual gaps like this, for example. And yes, we did fill this to a T, but it's kind of this general, the whole area is where you're looking for. This is going to be massive resistance area, and then we're just looking to see if we respect this and then start to come downwards again. And I think what is going to not slow that down, I don't think it's going to stop it, but what's going to slow this down is how big of an expansion we had upwards. We'll probably find support in here, which obviously we have done with this 1 hour. We'll find some support in here, probably continue back upwards a bit, but looking at what we're kind of doing right here, we're definitely going to want to kind of aim for these highs as we're kind of coming upwards right now anyway. But I think at any point soon we'll probably start to come back downwards again and continue what we're doing on the daily. So if I was to look at anything, I would just look to aim towards the lows again, is what I'd be doing. Obviously, I think what I've said right now is going to kind of happen across the board. So if I'm wrong on this, I'm wrong on everything, because I'm kind of going to give the same assumptions as on Ethereum, Solana, and whatnot on Syrup. I'm actually quite excited to look at Syrup, because I think Syrup's going really well with what we've been talking about. If I go to Ethereum now, though, and have a look at what we've got going on. So, Ethereum. This is the daily. I'll just go on the daily. So what have we been talking about? Well, my main thing I was talking about, Tuesday time and whatnot, basically here was, I'll be very surprised if we don't retrace, below these lows and come into this area and we don't see any sort of, I don't know why I have this so low, and this needs to be higher into this candle. There we go. That's not cheating. It's supposed to be between these two black candles here. But anyway, so what I was saying was, I'd be very surprised if we didn't see some sort of support coming below this low and into this massive area. And this is the difference, as I was talking about with Bitcoin. I'm going to whip out the drawing tool now. Here we go, the high tech. We're moving along. It's out the Stone Age now. In this case, where you can see we've had this, move upwards. And if you really relate this to how Bitcoin, I'm not saying the time frame's different, but the move has been different in the sense that we've had continuous move upwards. We've only really had this candle here, and obviously if I number these, we can see 1 and 2. But we haven't really moved upwards in the sense that Bitcoin has. Again, you can look back, and yes, we have had this whole move is relative to how Bitcoin has moved, but in terms of our response, especially, I think as well, in terms of we've only really just started this. Bitcoin has been doing this, like all this, what I mean, like it's really been coming down into the area we formed when we had this massive pump towards 123k. In Ethereum's case, we haven't really had a major move down until now, where obviously you can see if we do the fancy pantsy numbers, it's only really started like in this area where we have one low which kind of comes deeper into it and then does a new high, obviously forms the new high and then continues downwards and then prints past this. And clearly, and same thing I've been talking about with Bitcoin, where this is a higher time frame thing we're doing, where okay, where's the major high? This is the major high, and this is about if we do that, 3,000, basically 4,000. So until we if we look at these areas, it's like, yes, okay, please change. There we go. In terms of the highs, obviously Bitcoin has a lot more highs because we spent more time kind of cascading and obviously doing this and doing our thing a bit lower, obviously. But in obviously Ethereum's case, we haven't done that. We've literally just done a little low and then that's it, and produced our high. So the only major high I can see is this 4,000 one. So unless we print past that and do a new high, we're just going to be in this downtrend. So it's either going to be 4K or we're going down. That's kind of the two standard points. And especially if you really consider the move we've had so far, it's been pretty rapid back upwards, recovering all this. Ethereum, in Bitcoin's case, relative to this move, it's only really sitting around here, which obviously, if we look at the price, is about 3,600 in theory, relative to the move. Again, Bitcoin had the entire, this whole move. We're only really sitting about the midpoint of it. So Ethereum has, come up a bit more rapid, a bit stronger. Because again, if we consider it, Bitcoin's come into like 3 or 4 times. We've come down into the massive pump we had, which brought us up to 4K. In Ethereum's case, we don't have that. We had one low with these, with these kind of lows kind of in tandem, and then this massive area. So I'm not surprised we've had a massive response from this area. And again, it's what I was saying last stream as well. Even though this is the entire retracement, this whole area, and we should be aiming down here at 2,800. I still am. I'm not. We're gonna have to go down at some point. We're gonna have to come and come down okay, let me get the mouse back out. There we go. We're gonna have to come down through this area anyway, you know, and this is kind of global with Bitcoin, and people have been saying this as well. I know I've been talking about with 90k, 86, 87k, whatever it was for Bitcoin anyway, which is obviously quite low. These are definitely extreme lows, and this is gonna take a long time to happen. This is definitely a daily higher time frame thing for a trend or whatever. And the same thing for Ethereum. I'm regardless of what we're doing, I'm still going to aim for 2,700 longer term low. It's just how long it takes to get there. What sort of process do we take to get there? But obviously in this case, you know, I'm not surprised. The difference between Solana, Bitcoin, Ethereum, in terms of the major three, if you will, of charts of what I cover anyway, Ethereum is definitely in a slight league of its own, and Bitcoin's definitely on the latter case for a move down, because we've spent that time, you know, retracing and carving out that massive move we've had for where there could potentially be buy areas and whatnot for Bitcoin. But let's actually move on to some lower time frame. I've sorted out the sidebar a bit so we can see a bit more. So what do we have? Let me do this actually. So the 4 hour. I drew the from this low. I remember drawing this, I think, like last stream before, whatever it was, but this gives an equilibrium of 3,436. Obviously, we found this last stream as well in terms of we had this gap. If I get the fancy draw out, we had this gap back here, in between here, and then we had this singular candle, which engulfed and obviously formed support with these 3 lows here. So obviously, following that along, we already talked about this low and coming down. So if we look at Ethereum, obviously for me, okay. And this is why Ethereum's a bit different for me, because even on the 4 hour, for a major high and major low, clearly, you know, it's this area and this area. Even though we're on the 4 hour, yes, we do have this move, and yes, internal move. This is internal to external for a downtrend. It's like this. Let me change this to a different color. There we go. It's still internal moves, and these are the external, where it's like we're aiming for the low, we're aiming for another low, and in this case, yes, we have this internal where it aims for these areas as we come upwards, and we still have this area. And if I actually draw a area for this, coming from this one to this one, this is the area we came up into it a bit, found resistance. But again, this is on the same topic of the balance in between where we are trying to get to and where we've come from. In terms of the balance, what I mean by that is what we've done previously and what we're trying to target right now for the internal move versus how we get there. So in this case, obviously this gap, which we obviously retrace into, I don't know. I actually don't know if we're going to get to equilibrium with this. There we go. Actually, we literally tickle equilibrium there. Obviously, we have this gap, which is the main focus of this move. If I can please get the the measure tool of this here. You can see obviously we formed this. You know, we have these candles coming down, come up low or high, lower high, coming down into filling this gap as we've come upwards. Again, pretty expansionary, pretty normal. Again, internal move, expansion high, retracement down. This is, you know, the retracement, it's either really choppy, crappy price action, or it's kind of equative price action where it's not just a straight line down, it's like it's more of a process downwards. So you can clearly see obviously expansion, we didn't really stop here, expansion, and then we have that retracement. So if you look relative to our expansion, this is a normal retracement as we've looked on every other time frame, on Bitcoin, obviously everything else. So we have this expansion, we have the retracement, and now we've expanded again, coming into aiming for these areas. And again, I think we're really sitting at excuse me, we're really sitting at the top end of this whole area, where obviously we have this high and we have these equal highs. Realistically, only looking at these kind of last point before we start to aim for 3,950 for the high, we have these highs and we have this gap which we filled. And yes, we are slowing down. It doesn't necessarily mean we've stopped. Obviously, we're still up. But we are slowing down, you know, similar to how we have it on Bitcoin. You know, 15-minute, we have that print. We are coming up a bit more now above these. But again, this is the 15 minutes. But relative, again, on the 1 hour as well, it's like we have this move upwards. And now we have this kind of downish, down move, which is, you know, starting. And again, it just looks, so far, it's just a retracement. It's not really expansionary. I'm not saying it has to be, but, you know, this is a very big move. This whole area on the 1 hour is a very big move. You know what I mean? So it's like, I wouldn't be surprised for a bit more lower move, but it's like, okay, if we balance what we've done, we are on the latter end of our resistance area. Again, as I've already talked about, Bitcoin is sitting about 3,670. Solana's already had a big move downwards and had that expansion downwards, very similar with Bitcoin. I don't think it's had a massive move back upwards, which has kind of caused anything to I'm just looking at my levels. There we go. Which has caused it to come up to its highs again. Unlike Ethereum, and this is what I've already said when we introed Ethereum, and I will say it again, is definitely in a different, definitely in a bit more of a different scenario relative to how we've moved and how we're responding versus Bitcoin and Solana for sure. But yeah, I think so far it's looking good. We've filled the entire gap, obviously, tying like maybe like $3 off the top here, but we've filled the entire thing. We've come up to at least fill it. We do have these highs to focus on, and if we were to go from external, and again, I think I had this on the daily actually, for the retracement. I have these. Did I just draw this? I think. Yeah, let me get rid of these for now. There we go. Did I have it on the daily? I was drawing this for the major to the major low. It's like we've only really we are edging above this now, so it's like it's really getting close to. Are we going to see that high? Are we going to come down? And like I said, and even with right now on the daily, and this is the difference between daily and the 4 hour right now, is like this is the gap. You know, this is where the area should be, and we've already come past it. And yes, we haven't printed yet, all this sort of stuff, but we've come quite heavily past. And yes, on the 4 hour, we do still have. I've only really just come to fill it right now, and we've done all this. I do want retracement, and again, we've had quite a good expansion. I wouldn't be surprised if we have retracement, considering where we are, considering we're at the top end of the resistance area, or just resistance in general, whatever it is. And I do think we are going to see the high now or soon, and see this technically lower high. We're going to see this high, or we're going to start to get above 3,900 and even just try and target that high, which is obviously, if you compare it to what Solana's doing and Bitcoin's doing, and pretty much, obviously Syrup's different. Syrup has had the pump, because again, it goes later, as we've talked about, going from Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, altcoin, and going down the money flow. So it makes sense, obviously, why Bitcoin's obviously having that big move. You'd think it would go Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, but in this case, you can see like Bitcoin and Solana are both very similar in terms of we've had this massive expansion downwards, and the retracement has been relative to what you should expect for a lower high and coming down. And it's not a thing where you can't come above these highs and wick past them and then print below them and then continue downwards. It's not out of the ordinary, or it's not something which can't ever happen. But it's really, if we obviously continue this, it's a make or break scenario where we're very close to the all-time high, where if you continue past this, would be a print continuously. But I don't think we'd get there. I don't think we'd get there. Consciously, again, I could be really biased about this and very wrong, and I don't want to be wrong. I do need to go to the 4 hour, though, to be fair, or the 1 hour. I still have stuff to talk about, but I'm not going to mention the 4K. I don't think we'll see that personally. Yes, we could even wick past these highs, but even then, it's like I'm really not confident on the fact that we see 4K. Obviously, could be wrong, but let's just talk about what we have before I make my final judgment or anything. Well, we had obviously to cascade downwards and to translate it downwards to the 1 hour. We had this last gap. We have this move back up again. The last between the last candles is the gap, and then we still have one more move upwards. Actually, this is probably a bit of a resistance, but whatever. Obviously, aiming for that. We also have now potentially produced a high, which could be of interest as it is into this sell area. And regardless if we come past this high or not, this is going to be sell area in. Even above the high, to be fair, as we've already used it, sitting basically in this area here, as we've already come up into it a bit more. I should probably delete this, actually. I don't really care about this. No, not that. There we go. So this main area is where the resistance is. And you can see, like, we have a really nice, tidy print there. And yes, we have had this little cheeky part upwards, but we have had a bit of retracement. And it's very... On the 1 hour, from what it looks like right now, is very similar to what it looks like on the daily, where we have this massive move and then this retracement and this massive move back upwards, where it's just out of balance in terms of this is just a massive area. This is a massive area. But in theory, we should have a retracement, and even though this is where the buy area is, if you were to expect a deeper retracement, considering the fact that even on the lower time frames and the higher time frame, uptrend, downtrend, and this is just an internal move back upwards to target, internal area before we aim for a new low as we continue down and whatnot across the market, all these sorts of things. We can still use retracements on the lower time frames as we are technically in an uptrend on these time frames. As you can clearly see with massive move, as soon as we kind of come past this area, for example, and print here, we're now clearly in this uptrend, and then you can start to draw these areas and look at and look at retracements into these areas. And the same thing here, look for the lows, look for the move upwards, and to consider if we have retracements and coming down past these areas, where could we aim for if we continue. And this is the thing, and this is very similar to what I talked about, I believe, on Bitcoin, where even though we have these retracements and on the lower time frames, on the 1 hour relative to the daily, we are in an uptrend. We have to still consider the fact that on the higher time frames, we have come into higher time frame resistance. So this trend will continue until it finds a reason to stop. So even though I'm going to say, oh yeah, well, since we're in an uptrend, right, we're going to aim for 3,640 and then we're going to go for 3,900. This, we are very close to the all-time high of, or this high of Ethereum. So even though like I can say that, I wouldn't be very right to say that. Because, again, nothing ever goes up forever. There has to be reason for something to stop, and we have reason for it to stop. We are in the last area of this sell area. We have these local highs, which we could also target, to be fair. And it's like we are very close to this, to an area which you would expect for a reversal. It's the same thing I talked about on Syrup when we looked at the reversal happening, and it happened, as we will get onto in, 10 minutes, whatever it's going to be, 15 minutes. So I think there's a few things you have to keep in mind, juggle at the same time as you're looking at the chart. It's like, okay, what are we doing? Are we on a trend, downtrend? What do we have to keep us going upwards? And then what do we have which could stop us from going upwards and start us to go downwards? And also, is it like, okay, are we at something to make us go downwards? In this case, a higher time frame point of interest, like this gap we have. If we are at this area, do we have enough below us? Or I don't want to say, my brain likens it to a balance, kind of like a scale. Now, I don't know if this is the right thing to think about, but technically, it could also value like that thought in the sense that, okay, well, we have plentiful buy versus sell, and that's how the market moves. To be fair, it's like if you have more buy and sell, obviously it's going to move the price in a certain direction. Otherwise, you wouldn't move ever, regardless of what the price is doing. So I suppose it is right to say that. I don't be wrong in saying that, but in terms of the balance in between. The balance of reason between, do you have, would it actually, even if you've come to resistance, would it stop you from coming down? So the case in point here, to be fair, actually, in doing a new high in this uptrend, yes, we have come past this high. This is our resistance here. This is our resistance. But looking at what we've printed below us, this is the balance in between here is relative, where it allows us to retrace, filling the entirety of this gap, and then start a new move upwards to target the high. So, I think it's right to say that. I think we have that, even though the gap is here. It could be a not premature, because it doesn't necessarily mean you have to come down into this area. But, this is definitely the area to want to focus on. I'm just kind of shimmy this upwards. And on the 15 minute, yes, okay, the equilibrium is about here as well. So it's a bit lower, but I want to look at the 1 hour, as I do with most coins. I don't want to, cheat or anything. Or be biased and as soon as because it's like, the equilibrium looks like it's hard to reach. So what we'll do, we'll go to the 15 minute and use it. So it's like square peg round hole. It's like it doesn't necessarily mean you have to reach into these areas. It's like, if we draw it here, then equilibrium's down at 3,700, and that's where I'll target. You know what I mean? So I don't want to do that, because that's not right. You want to keep the same regimented system, no matter what you can apply it to, and just keep applying it, because there's gonna be times there will be times you lose. So it's like it's not right to just cheat and just put kind of skew the chart to fit your model. It has to be a sense that whatever I'm doing on the chart, it has to be consistently done right. Otherwise, it's there's no point. But anyway. So in theory, it would be, okay, we should see that we have this high. If this is the high, if we found this high time frame point of interest or whatever it's going to be, we should then expect retracement, and we should in theory come past this area. But it could be a scenario where we only really just come to 3,667 and only come to about here or here as we come downwards and then move up again. But again, this is the thing. It's like, is this time frame, is this a point of interest strong enough or good enough reason to see a reversal? Well, it's not out of the ordinary to wick past some highs and come past this before we come down, but we're getting obviously very close to these areas, which should expect us to come back down, expect us to come downwards. Otherwise, we're going to start to see all-time highs and then produce a new high for Ethereum in comparison to Bitcoin, Solana, and everything across the board on the high, on the large coins anyway. Obviously, Syrup is going up and whatnot, and we will talk about it in a second. We will talk about Syrup in a second, but I'm probably going to move on to Solana in a second. But I do want to give some tangible numbers regardless of what I think. So obviously we're having a push coming past this high right now anyway. So obviously we'll probably try and trail this as we go along until we have enough sense to reverse. Because again, as I've already talked about, it's the same thing on the daily though, to be fair. Let me put this back so we can talk about it. Same thing I said on the daily though, even though in theory, oh well, you know, even though if we look at retracement from the major low to the major high, we should only see along at this area. It's the same thing we're doing on the lower time frames or the higher time frame. We're doing this, and in theory, it should just be a downtrend. So yes, we can do lows premature to this low. It doesn't have to be a straight line downwards. Same thing on the lower time frames where we can continue to go upwards, premature to where we should see an expectant high. And, you know, as I've just talked about on the 1 hour, if we apply what we just looked at on the 1 hour, it's like, okay, cool. Well, we can see a low in this area and continue upwards without us having to go down here. Same thing as the 2,700 we have on Ethereum versus now. So it's not a necessary thing. It's just if you find it below equilibrium, it's probably where you want to aim for. But I think no matter what you use, you have to give context to it. You have to give bias. And for me, the fact that we're in this range of potential last leg before we have a reversal, you know, I would want to watch us go past this area. If we continue to go downwards, I would want us to go past this area. But it's just kind of a general rule of thumb. Because like if you compare this area to this area, it's like, yes, okay, we have come into resistance area, but we have strong reason to find support, and you still want to wait to come downwards. You know what I mean? So obviously we'll see how Ethereum goes. To give our actual numbers, we're kind of on this last leg, getting towards this high or not. So I do want to wait to see what to say, but I'm still going to sit on the fact that I would expect retracements. Even if we're still in this uptrend and we still are aiming for a bit higher, you know, I still want to retracement back down into some areas below here as we continue this move as we're doing it. But I'll be pretty interested to see if we're doing new highs. It's because my brain's like, okay, cool, well, we've had this massive move down, we should fill it, which we have done, and then continue back downwards, and well, on the higher time frame and all this sort of stuff. It's like, yeah, we want to aim for you know, moving up and downwards again, and we've come past this low, so we should aim for you know, us moving past this and coming downwards and aiming for lower and lower towards 2,700. But you know what I mean? I don't want to just like square peg round hole it and just go, oh, we have to do this, otherwise you know, whatever. So 15 minutes, I don't think I've shown this yet. Yeah, this is just a bit more detail into what I would focus on if there was to be support. But obviously, as you can clearly see, we have printed past this area on the 15 minutes. So clearly we have started a bit more of a move upwards, as we are also even targeting this high. So, you know, I should be back over it. And then obviously we have all this. So I think we're going up a bit more for Ethereum. And I don't want to give a number right now because we're in the midst of doing that. I've given my number for Ethereum. I don't want to consciously give a exact number for Ethereum. I can look at these lows, but in comparison to what we've done, we would want to aim for this higher time frame point of interest, where it's like, okay, we've had this. Is it on the 4 hour? Where is this? Have I not drawn this retracement? I have, haven't I? Where it's either we've aimed for here, or we are coming past this and then we come down. And in this case, it's, okay, cool, we've seen this resistance. And in this case, yeah, okay, cool, we've had this resistance, but you've seen this reversal, you want to aim for this low, but then we stop doing that. So it's kind of a dud here. It's a bit dud. But obviously bearing in the everything is conceptual, looking at the daily, we had this area to pay attention to. So, you know, it's it wasn't a deep area where it's like, okay, on the higher time frame we had this move down, which then expects us to move back upwards. But comparison to what we had for Bitcoin, and this is why I think Ethereum is moving differently. As I said when I came onto Ethereum, the movement between Ethereum and everything else, albeit, you know, alluding to Bitcoin and Solana, this is massive support. So with Bitcoin, where obviously we did this, I want to move to Solana because I need to look at Siri, or not Siri, Syrup, and obviously someone does want me to look at Siri, which I will look at in like 2 minutes. It's different gravy right now, where we have this massive area we've only just come into. So to see us have this support and potentially edge back upwards and aim for a bit higher, I don't think is impossible. Considering we're already there, and this thing is like, I don't think I'm saying crazy talk. We're already pretty much there. So I don't want to say anything just yet for Ethereum, but what I will say though is if we do aim for these highs and get a bit more upwards, it's just more strength to come back downwards. So what I would say to you is still continue to aim for lower and continue to aim for lows. Because even if we did, in theory, I wouldn't get in anything right now. We're too close to the highs, and we have too much below us to go down right now until we see these highs. So we're kind of in this phase where I want to wait to see if we come up a bit more, or if we come down. And if we do come down, we have more support below us, which we've formed. We have this massive expansion where this doesn't really look the same as Bitcoin, in the sense that Bitcoin did this, where it had an equal move up and down. This is pretty expansionary. We have a bit more of a gap here, especially massive candle, pretty big expansionary. And this retracement, it's like, okay, we have expansion, and then the move up was pretty expansionary upwards, and then we only had a tiny bit of retracement. So clearly we had a tiny bit of retracement, and then we're expanding again. So clearly we've already started a bit more of a move up. So in relative to what we have for Bitcoin anyway, I want to see if we aim a bit higher. So, and all that will mean for us is if we do continue higher, okay, we do a high. What do we do from a high? We come downwards again. So I would wait a bit more and then look for move downwards. But again, I don't want to, unless we do some sort of standard deviation. How did I draw it last time? I can't even remember. Okay, let me just delete all this. I can't bother. How do we do it? I think it was I think it was from the high to the low, which spawned the new high. Oh, I don't think I'm gonna bother doing this. Actually, I can't remember how to do it again. It's something like this. Oh no, it was the other way around, wasn't it? Was it the other way around? Was it this? I can't remember. I can't remember. I need to go back and look at it. I can't actually remember. Let's go to Solana because I'm wasting time. Because I know I do need to go on to this. I think what I was thinking about Solana before I started stream was literally look at the 1 hour. We do have the daily. Obviously, we had this. We've already talked about this coming into this area for the previous highs over here and then retracing. But see, this is very similar to Bitcoin, and I think the difference between Solana, Ethereum, and Bitcoin, Solana's expansion wasn't that massive. You know what I mean? Like Bitcoin obviously was massive, but it counteracted that for how we've had continuous move downwards to come into the area. Solana's case, it wasn't that crazy of expansion. Yes, we had a big expansion. We've already expanded down. Expansion, good retracement, expansion, clear as day move down. This is like, look at this. Look at all this. This is clear as day. Expansion, retracement, expansion, retracement, expansion. And we've come to this area as well, actually, which obviously we talked about quite a while ago for the midpoint. So Solana's case, even though we haven't had multiple move downwards into the expansion wasn't that massive to begin with, so it's okay. Bitcoin, obviously big expansion, as I just said. Ethereum, again, equative or equal expansion, or the strength and volume and just movement we had in Ethereum is relative to Bitcoin, but we haven't had that consistent retracement downwards to actually come into these areas and actually not see difficulty when we try to come down. So that's why I think Ethereum is in a different scenario comparative to Solana and Bitcoin. Anyway, that's the daily. I just want to quickly glance at it. So this is mainly what I want to look at on the 1 hour, I think, anyway. So I think we basically drew stuff. I think obviously it was this is today, and then Tuesday was back here. So we were basically here when we were looking. And what was I talking about? I think I was talking about us coming back upwards again in this uptrend. Obviously, we came for the lows. I think I mentioned, oh yeah, we could come as low as these lows and kind of wick past them and then come up again. Big expansion downwards. Obviously, I think I talked about the resistance here, but we had equal expansion upwards, which was obviously very good for Solana. And then we had a gap here and then came down into it. Obviously, we didn't produce this low, and we continued to aim back upwards. And obviously, what I did talk about in this move, even though, and this is why I think I pretty much remember saying I think we come a bit more higher into this area and kind of wicking. I remember saying wicking past this order block we had, past these highs and just kind of coming past this and then coming back downwards again. And obviously to see case in point, even though we were down here, I was still talking about us coming upwards again. So obviously we did do that. Obviously expanded upwards, decent support over here. But what did we come to? We did come into this area, just shy of that midpoint, coming above this high and this equilibrium, and coming into the major area to want to aim for. So we did that pretty nicely for Solana, and then we start to move downwards. And now we've printed past this area with this candle, and now we have come back upwards, and now we're coming into these candles again. So it looks like we've had a bit of a move. It's actually similar to this sort of move. I know I've gone over head and shoulders all the time, and if I was to talk about one thing being relative to what I would talk about, and I agree with, it would be head and shoulders, because it is something which charts out an actual market move, in the sense that you have this move, you have your uptrend normal. I mean, the left shoulder doesn't really matter, I don't think. I mean, maybe angles. I don't really know what the angles mean. I don't really know why there's a measurement here which meets the. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't know why it has to meet here for the left shoulder. I don't really know, but you can kind of ignore the left shoulder. It's really just coming into a high time frame point of interest, or a point of interest for a potential resistance. If you're in an uptrend, in this case, finding short or sell or resistance, whatever, and then expanding downwards. The main point, I think, for me, for a head and shoulders is finding that resistance or finding some point to find a high at and expanding downwards, instead of having retracement, expanding downwards and then retracing into that expansion to find resistance and then coming down. Obviously, in this case, we had this old order block, which it seems like we're still trying to use, especially with this here, this especially here. Obviously, we used it here. We've kind of come into above and come down again. We could probably actually use this as a new order block, because we have come above this high and a point of interest, and we've engulfed it in this move downwards. So we could probably also use this as a bit of resistance, as I do want to see what this entails for us. We could probably hide this one for now, just to see. Okay, yeah, so this, actually, I'm going to hide all of it. There we go, so we can see a bit better. So this potential, anyway, this might be, whatever. It comes past, obviously, the highs, and we've come into the major area here, and then it engulfs it with this whole move. You can probably go to the 4 hour and see it, maybe not, actually. But obviously, we've done that, and now we are sitting in this area. We do have these candles on the way downwards. We don't really have a gap, per se, where it has a massive gap, but we are coming to these candles again. And obviously, we have this area, which we've printed past here, and now we've come upwards. So what do we have which would stop us from continuing all the way downwards? Well, obviously we do have potentially a bit more of a gap and a low here, but if we are continuously doing this, and if we're expanding, if this is a retracement and we're expanding in the way we could still be doing, then that could easily continue us downwards and stop us from having a massive retracement back upwards for a new high. And then from there, it's like we do have these massive amount of lows, but from there we don't really have much. We have a low, and that's it. And if we get past this low and continue, obviously, on the high time frame stuff, then we're in this downtrend again. And the whole point of what we've been looking at in this entire phase from this downtrend, as we've been in a downtrend the entire time, is to look for this retracement into this reversal area, where we then should look for a continuation downwards for Solana. So again, this is just the same thing I've been talking about: Bitcoin, Ethereum, all this sort of stuff, where we pay attention to why we're looking at this. And even though, yes, we're in an uptrend for this internal, it's internal move. It's an internal move upwards. As we looked at on Bitcoin, all that time ago, we have the massive internal range. We have this external thing we want to aim for. In terms of external being, lows and, low here, low, aiming to continue past these lows. In this case, this is the external. This is all the internal. We've come up into it. We've come to this midpoint. We then should watch for a reversal on lower time frames, continue downwards. And if we can see reversal and continue downwards and really aim for it, then we basically just look at 156. And that's it, really. Because again, we're trading the trend. We're trading what should be the trend as we are continuing this downtrend. So unless we see something below us where we've come into a high time frame like support point, and yes, to be fair, yeah, we have a bit of a support here. We've come past these lows, but then consider where we've come from. Again, same thing I said on Bitcoin and Ethereum. I like to consider where we've come to and how what we did to get there. So where we came to, yes, we did find support, and we did have a retracement. If we look at this whole thing, we had this, retracement area where, we've come into this area for the 156. We've come below equilibrium. So yes, we are in an area where we want to look for a buy, but also consider the fact that, where we've come from the high, which obviously is taken all this and whatnot. And let me move that back. There we go. And we are actually also a bit more in a weekly uptrend, but it's also a reversal, not a reversal, but like, if you really just look at it, it's that internal move back upwards, which obviously has these new highs, and we have some gaps back here in this kind of little gap with all these highs here. We have this gap back here as well. So it's like we are just kind of coming to fill this, as we have this kind of major, if it goes to the week, actually, we kind of have this major point where we've had this move, we had this high, we had this uptrend, and then what we did, I've always talked about this anyway, we had these lows and we printed past them, and now we're coming back upwards, and this is our little mini gap we had. Obviously, all these candles, regardless, highs here, highs here. This is our main gap, though. This is our main gap, which obviously we've come into, and now we are just coming downwards. And all we've done in this weekly candle, we have a tiny little gap here, little wick in, so we have a massive, pretty good candle downwards. And we're just kind of retracing back up on this weekly. Could expect another negative weekly candle. We do potentially have support here, as I've kind of talked about, but once we start to move past some of this, and we've come from this internal, if we watch for this reversal, if we look, consider we're on the weekly, this is like daily 4-hour stuff. If we see reversal daily 4-hour and start to go into a downtrend again, if we consider this obviously the start of the downtrend, we've kind of had an internal uptrend to aim for a new high, and then aim for lows again. And this could be the relative, 90k, 86k for Bitcoin. Ethereum has, I don't know what a relative, 2,700, 2,000 lower than where we are. I have talked about the idea that Solana will want to be aiming for 126 and 95 and coming down again. But that obviously could be definitely temporary. This could be a temperamental thing, which isn't really, super strong or anything like that. I know I'm proper over time, but I've kind of gone off on a tangent on the higher time frames on Solana, but so yeah, again, go back to this. We are still in this phase where we could potentially see this reversal, considering this print and whatnot, and then continue downwards. So we'll see how it goes. But again, we have come into the potential reversal area. This is what the logical area would be for reversal, as we consider the mass amount of move we've had. And I think if I was to be confident in anything finding reversal, it would be Solana. Because if you really look at what we've done so far, like Bitcoin, we have come into a resistance area and we haven't come too high. Ethereum is already pretty much coming past the resistance area. We're already coming past to aim for highs. So I think Ethereum, and as I've already talked about, Ethereum I think is in its own ballpark right now, as I've talked about its movement and how we've moved. I think Solana is the one where it's like we haven't really had a massive expansion, and the expansion we did have, which was pretty much this whole move, we've already recovered it. This is really good expansion. Like, it's not just a little expansion, like little expansion, little retracement, massive expansion, good retracement. So we can have this good retracement coming from 157 back up towards 174, this area here, whatever it is, and then continue downwards again. So out of everything, I think Solana is the one I'm happiest about if it was to continue a downtrend. Obviously, I think it would go Solana, Bitcoin, Ethereum in terms of where we are. Because again, as I've already said, Ethereum is already coming upwards to these areas of potential new highs. So we will see. What I will do, I'm going to go to syrup. I haven't actually read the chat a single time. I haven't read it. I haven't actually read it out loud. So I do want to actually do that. So yeah. I wish to move to 118k soon Bitcoin. Yeah, I think I was talking about that. I think it was 179 as like a max high type of thing going on. So we do still have more room to move upwards. So I'm not denying that. But I want to see if it continues the higher time frame trend we could still be doing. But anyway, obviously we'll see how it goes. So yeah. Let me scroll down a bit. Efficient price action. I remember actually seeing that ages ago. I think that, yeah, in the sense of, I assume it was a downtrend, like a downtrend and uptrend in terms of lower highs and lower lows, and just aiming to trade that. Yeah, absolutely. I'm late, but pleasure to be among you. Don't worry. I know you're the syrup man. So don't worry, because we're on syrup right now. And so I will quickly. I know I'm like 5 minutes over. I'm not going to spend too long on syrup because I've already talked about this. I just want to kind of in review syrup. But I think, BB, I think you were here. I don't think you were last stream. You were on the stream before. So what I was talking about on the stream before, I do want to look back, because obviously this is, I know you are someone who likes syrup, or someone who's actually interested in syrup. So I will go back to look at what we looked at last. So what we looked at last was this area. I think we must have been, where were we actually? Yeah, it was Saturday 10. So it was basically here. I remember talking about this live actually. We were in this candle. I was saying, and my main point, and I know for the people who were here last stream, I know I've already talked about this, but I want to talk about it again because I do. What I was saying here was my main point was I have enough reason to believe that this could be the low point, because we had the support, this green line was support, we had this blue line was a low, this blue line was a low, and we were coming down, and then we had this massive higher time frame, point of interest, if you will, and we'd already started to kind of expand upwards a bit. Obviously, we kind of came to fill this, and then we produced a new gap, and then we came down, and we were already starting to produce this green. So my belief was, if we could even just get past this, you know what I mean? Get past this 39.8 and start to print. Obviously, we continue to do that. We're in an uptrend, and this is what. And obviously, I know I made a big deal of it as I was making it and as I was talking about it. But this is why I used a 50-minute. I don't really look at the 50-minute on a great deal. It's more just to look for reversals and what could be a reversal. So obviously we did that. You know, we actually did this move, and then we continued upwards, and literally we caught the bottom, which was obviously convenient because again, I looked at it as it was there. But if you really look, like, we hit that green line and whatnot, and we literally hit the bottom. We had this down candle, we had this bigger up close candle, and then we expanded upwards. And this was obviously in this kind of move. If I was seeing this at, you know, Saturday 11 and I saw this move, yeah, okay, brilliant. Yeah, we come past this, expect a massive expansion, tiny retracement. There you go. Yeah, and obviously our target. What was our target for syrup? Well, it was obviously coming up into the main area at about 52. And I know this is messy because I have some highs I've drawn on some lower time frames. But the main target was obviously coming back up into this gap, coming to this area. Even though the midpoint was here, we were mainly aiming for 50 cent. Obviously, my main one was about 50 cent, 52 cents. I think I went to the lower time frame, looked at these highs, for example. Obviously, here we've done these equal highs here. Also, this is actually also a, I believe, an order block, actually. If we look at... actually, I'll go to the 1 hour. I want to see it. Keep on moving everything. Well, in the sense that we've come down and then found an area and then came up and then engulfed downwards to take this low. This will be an area to focus on. Now, if I draw this and then draw it back, here we go. So that's where we actually hit there we go. That's kind of nearly where we hit the high at maybe 0.000123 cent off of it. And obviously we've had a bit of retracement coming from this area. So again, this was the area to aim for, which I wanted to really aim for. Coming up into this area, pretty much producing these equal highs here. Obviously we had a bit of a gap here. We had these candles as well, which was also kind of what we're aiming for. And then we produced this high, and now we've started to retrace. We haven't fully done a move down. What I will say though is, again, same thing as I talk about, I want to look at the 50-minute for reversal. So we have come into general area. I think for me, for syrup, I would want to see another push up. We have this gap on the 15-minute, which we're at the midpoint. We're kind of hovering at. Yes, we have had a pretty decent expansion downwards, though, for the balance. We're going on the 15 minutes. If you really look at the 1 hour here, it's not that expansionary. We do have a main gap here. And obviously on the 4 hour, this is like a major expansion, like, you know, hoverage, major expansion. You know, pretty good move upwards, and then we have only really started. So we haven't really started to move down. We haven't reversed or anything on syrup. So I could expect a bit of a retracement and then a move back upwards. What we could see, if we've done equal highs here, we could even hit 52 cents for syrup. But I would want to wait. I would want to see reversal points soon for syrup, as we've had a really nice move upwards and printed past these lows. We are technically in the start of a high time from downtrend on the daily. If we look, you know, we've printed past this area for a change in state, which should be reversal. And if you really look at where we've come from, we took this high and dumped. So, you know what I mean? Like, this is like strong downwards pressure from this whole move downwards, which obviously in between 55.5 towards 42. So this whole area was the sell area. So what I would expect to see would be a lower high at about 52 cent and continue downwards. If we start to see reversal and you see a day or two of negativity, or you know, a couple of 4 hours of candle negativity and start a downtrend, I would then want to see if we could come all the way down towards 38.4 and come down for syrup. So that's what I would say as we have started this downtrend. But even then, it's like we've been in this downtrend. You know what I mean? Like, if we look at, we had this obviously uptrend, we had this massive high downtrend, which then resulted in us printing past this, and then obviously we moved upwards. We did wick past this high, and then we did the same thing here. So it's like, you know, we've had this. If we look at the candle bodies, which actually are the movement, it's been this whole kind of move like this. So I would expect a retracement from this. We are moving up quite nicely. It's not really a retracement. Again, it's relative to how we're moving versus how we obviously where we move to and how we get there. The idea of that and how we are getting here is pretty expansionary. There could be potential for something of support within this 40 cent area. But if we go to the 4 hour, if we just dim it down to the 4 hour, there's not really expansion. It's very obviously there is expansion upwards, but the retracements are recovering this really nicely. There's not really much in this sense for syrup to look at in terms of a support area on the 4 hour, apart from maybe within this area about 45, and then obviously where we are right now. But for this, I think I don't want to look at, you know, because I don't want to draw a retracement for this trend. Obviously, you know, we can do it on the 1 hour. We can look at, you know, this low before this move upwards for here. Obviously, looking at this and looking at coming towards, you know, this area. You know, for this about 48 cent, as we were kind of talking about. Also, we have these equal lows here, which could also look at about 48.7. So somewhere in this area, again, for a retracement, as we are kind of coming downwards now. Not fully, but we also have on the, as we kind of looked at, we have this gap. If we look at this kind of being the major low before this move, we're already kind of coming into this area on the 15 minutes. So we could have a bit more of a push up to hit these areas, but you know what I mean? It's like it's in its process, if you will. It's still doing its thing, but relative to this whole move, I mean, this is probably equal to this move, and we had a decent retracement and then continue back upwards. So I don't see a reversal right now. Because the same thing as well, even though, yes, we are in the area to look for a short, we did also fill this gap, to be fair, as well. We did wick for a high here. If we don't fully reverse, and this obviously leads me to believe we might not fully reverse all the way down towards our lows. If we have one more move upwards, these equal highs would be definitely something I would be interested in. As we are kind of coming downwards, as we're coming upwards. But and yes, there's potential for this area 53, but I think 52 is kind of where I would want to target for SIRP. I could be wrong, obviously, but no matter where you're targeting, the general target, if you're looking for a short, for a reversal, if this is the general move down to move upwards, it is aiming for about 38.5 cents. So regardless of where you get in, you're going to be aiming for the lows anyway. So yeah, but again, this is the daily. This takes some time to happen and whatnot. So trap longs. There was a large amount of market longs entering at this level on Bitcoin. Oh, where we are? I'll go back to look at it in a second. I mean, I'll leave off on Bitcoin. I will look at Sui though quickly. I don't look at Sui, so this is gonna be very quick to look at because I don't really ever look at it. So what I want to look at is what we're doing. So we clearly have it's more of we haven't really printed past any lows. We've kind of if we could just draw it out to make ourselves a bit easier. We have this, but what I want to focus on as well is, this is good price action. Expansion, retracement, expansion, retracement, expansion, retracement, expansion, expansion, retracement, expansion, and yes, expansion. Now we have reversed here. Obviously, we we had these gaps on the way up. Obviously, coming to these areas. Obviously, in this case, we had this move up to a move down, so we probably have this area as a support, and obviously we found support and it came up because again we can't go down forever, we can't go up forever. So obviously came down. We didn't produce a low per se. We did fill some of this area, but then what we did was expand upwards. But we also have to consider what we expanded from. In terms of what it takes to get here, what it takes to where we've come to, where we've come to, and how we got there. So we do have these areas in our way. I also want to consider these relative equal highs, a candle upwards and then an engulf downwards. So this is probably going to be a bit of a longer time frame resistance point we could probably aim for. Obviously we hit these here, and then we have these this general sort of resistance area. This is the weekly though. I do want to zoom down a tiny bit. So again, kind of what we were looking at here. We actually had a few highs which I don't want to. I just duplicated everything twice. I didn't want to do that. What I wanted to do was that. There we go. So we had these highs. We've kind of wicked past, and then we've expanded downwards. And within this expansion, we obviously had this relative low in terms of this uptrend. Anyway, we had this kind of major low. This being the major low, this being a decently major low, move upwards, which then took these highs, and then we had this expansion downwards. So it looks like we could be on the start of a move down, similar to how we've had across the board. Anyway, again, across the board on the daily, we've had the expansion upwards, a bit of a hoverage, something which has caused us to come down, an expansion downwards, and a retracement. So pretty normal price action. I can pretty much say that pretty normal price action. So what I will draw draw a retracement. If we are starting this downtrend, I want to draw this retracement and then jump down to maybe the 4 hour. I'm going to make this a different color because I want to. I don't like that color. I don't like that at all. I don't like that. There we go, perfect. So in this sense, what we're going to aim for then is towards a bit higher, maybe towards this area. And again, this line is the weekly resistance, which again is weekly resistance on the 4 hour isn't going to hit exactly, but it will hit pretty well. I mean, if we zoom in, it's like this is the weekly resistance. We hit it here, $4 here on this area. We hit it a few times, wick here, print here. Obviously, we wicked upwards, hit it here. Certain areas. I'm not saying because it's not perfect, but we hit in that area. But the midpoint is about, or the bottom of that resistance, the weekly is about nearly $4.1, which is pretty good. But also as we continue, this entire area, this area here, is pretty much sitting within this gap. And what you can see, we have the weekly resistance at 4.1. We have the midpoint of this gap, which we haven't come to yet really, at 4.1. We also have a mini gap here, which is a resultant from us coming a tiny bit up into this gap and then engulfing with that next candle. So if we draw that here, we can see we came back up into it for resistance. So we have a general resistance area. It was sitting at about $4, 4.1. And we have a massive expansion upwards, which is broken above this high. So we can clearly see we can see a downtrend. And then we start to actually push upwards again. We've kind of expanded upwards, retraced. Deep retracing, to be fair, but we've had a massive expansion. So regardless of what we did here, it's kind of just a normal downtrend for obviously this gap. So we're taking our time to get up, but we don't want to look at this because we want to look at the entire range we looked at on the daily for our retracement. So I'm not really aiming for 3.75, whatever it's going to be. We have a massive expansion, which is going to help us to do a new low, a higher low, as we continue upwards. I think we're going to continue a bit of an uptrend on SUI up until about maybe 4.1, $4.9. This gap is very, very interesting to me. Massive gap. Weekly resistance, midpoint is the general area you want to aim for, which is also 4.9. So, and we have this order block sitting with a top point about $4 as well. So within that, $4 to $4.10, that 10-cent range is really where I want to aim for SUI. So I would obviously want to watch it, obviously watch price, but we probably would see a bit of difficulty sitting within this. Probably the high at about 3.86, which is also where it starts to have equilibrium. But if we don't see immediate resistance there, which we might not necessarily see full resistance there, it would be this gap. And I think for me, I would really want to aim for that gap at about 4.09 cent. Basically this whole area. So that's what I probably would say about SUI. I don't really care about the 1 hour. It just shows it a bit more detail, big gap. But from what I've seen on the daily anyway, very similar to what the price is doing regardless. So what I will say to you, Tarufiki, don't know if I butchered your name, I would aim about $4.10, $4.05, starting at about $4 to $4.10. You know what I mean? That area, I would aim to get a bit up into there. That range. So that's what I would say for SUI. That wasn't too long. We are 18 minutes over. I do apologize. I was supposed to end off on Bitcoin. It's just one of the streams to look at. Apparently, a bunch of longs have entered in this area. So it could be. So this is the 4 hour. I think I was drawing on the 4 hour earlier anyway, or was it the 1 hour? It was the 1 hour here. All right. I'm going to look at the 4 hour though because it's a bit easier. So she said longs at this level, so I assume that is the current long, the current level of Bitcoin. I mean, I don't really know what I'm going to look at here. I don't know what I'm going to see here. You know what I mean? But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't know. Actually, you know what? I won't say anything. What's the footprint chart called? Right. Okay. Yeah, I think. So obviously, either like you said, either people entering now. I assume. It obviously, as you've already pretty much said everything. It's either people who've already been in there, who haven't got out, or people who are getting there right now. I mean, again, it depends on who's actually doing it. If I saw this move and I didn't know any better, I would look, okay, cool, this is a great move. And again, I think obviously we did talk about this being a massive move anyway. I think actually we were talking about this. To be fair, actually, we were talking here, weren't we? No. 10 o'clock. No, we weren't. Never mind. Yeah, I mean, I don't really have much to say about that. I mean, you know what I mean? It's people getting at this price. I mean, we've already had okay, let's go to 4 hour. We've been going up since. I mean, obviously, we have had these movements downwards, to be fair, but we've been going up since the Sunday low, coming upwards, continuing a massive, and since maybe 6 a.m. today, we've had massive movement. It's been a really positive day, but we have come up into the top end of this resistance area, well, not resistance area, but in theoretical short area. So I would want to still aim for movement downwards, especially seeing as though on the daily we are in the area of a retracement. I don't know. I mean, we haven't. I mean, again, I don't want to look at the daily as a long-term thing. It's the thing. It's like if I look at anything other than the daily, we're just on this internal move upwards, coming into this whole area. And for Ethereum's case, I think it depends on where you've come from. In Ethereum's case, we've had that massive support area, which has allowed us to have a massive response and come up towards the highs again. I think in Bitcoin's case, yes, we have come into a massive area and come past this low. But I don't think coming past this and printing past this low and forming a new low and forming a downtrend necessarily means we're now going to pump all the way back up towards 120k. I could be very wrong, but I don't think that's how I would expect the price to move. Relative to obviously Ethereum, I think Ethereum's case is a bit different, where we haven't really had a move down. I've already talked about it. I'm not going to keep on going. I know I'm 21 minutes over. I don't know. I apologize. I don't think Ethereum would, Bitcoin would be moving the same. Actually, I'm interested to look at how Ethereum's doing, because, is this the chart? There we go. Because I want to see where we are. Ooh. You know, we haven't started a downtrend. We're literally teetering on this area. Have we? Okay. I want to draw us across. I want to see the high. There we go. Again, very close. Do we have resistance here? Actually, let me look. We took this high and then came down. So to be fair, this could also be resistance. To be fair, you can see like we took the high and then one candle and then all the candles downwards. So to be fair, this is probably also resistance, a resistance area. I know this is hindsight and whatnot. And I didn't see this earlier, but I just wanted to see the likelihood chance of this being the area. There we go. So the midpoint is about where we've come to. So I suppose it could edge up a bit closer, but again, you know, we've started to come down pretty much right now. We have had a pretty big candle on the way upwards, but we either start to come down right now, or you know, we're aiming for highs again for Ethereum. But I mean, I think for Ethereum, it's like we've already had a decent wick down into this area. It's not that big of an area, this 3,700, and then apart from then, we have this retracement for this internal range. But again, I've already talked about daily. I've already talked about, you know, us doing our thing. Unless we print, if we print above 3,800, then I would be, you know, a bit more concerned on the fact that we could aim for some highs, coming past this kind of general area we have for the candle bodies. Apart from that, if we start to retrace within this, you know, within this move, you know, if we start to retrace now and come past to aim for lows and actually start to expand downwards, then yeah, I could, you know, then that'll be okay. But if we don't do that, then it's, you know, it's printing above this, and then it's us on the daily candle retracing into this entire candle we've printed, and then it's us, you know, coming back upwards again and potentially going up. You know what I mean? So obviously we'll see how it goes. But you know, I think my hesitancy, because it's like I don't want to say, you know, my brain is saying, okay, well, we've hit this high, we've hit this area, we should go down. But then obviously there's something in the back of my mind. I was like, oh, well, you know, we're really high right now. It wouldn't take a lot for us to actually get up above all this and actually start to aim for some highs. But you know, I will leave it there, because again, I am over it. I will actually be back on Saturday. So there's only a gap. That's why I want to look at the calendar. There's only a day, Friday, gap to Saturday. So we shouldn't have too much of it. It's not like it's Saturday to Tuesday. We should be back. Obviously, I will be back on Saturday, so we'll be able to look at the charts relatively soon. I probably might. I know I always say, oh, I'll watch the charts and say something on Telegram, but there's not really normally something. It's not nothing really happens outside of what I normally say on streams anyway. But I'm very interested with Ethereum to see how it goes. So I will obviously, I will actually keep an eye on Ethereum pretty heavily now to Saturday, and if anything, you know, changes or anything like that, I will post it in the Telegram. But we'll see how it goes. Because again, like I said, my brain is telling me we should see this move downwards. We've come into this massive area, but then we do have to pay attention to the fact that we've had probably the biggest expansion in this candle comparative to anything else. We had a consistent expansion downwards, but again, we've had a really strong move upwards for Ethereum. So we'll see what the charts say when it gets to it. But you know, we'll see. I'll leave it there. We'll see. You know, we might do equal highs and continue downwards and aim for these lows again. But it's getting to these. I mean, again, what we say is it goes up and then comes back downwards. But there's always that moment just before it starts to come back downwards where you're at that high pinnacle where it's like, oh, we're gonna actually come down. So we'll see. I'll be back Saturday. All right. I know I've kept you guys an absolute millennia. All right. I'm sorry. I'll do better next time. Okay. I'll see you guys Saturday. I'll try and include the you know what? There was one thing from testing this out. I didn't really use that much because it was like I have the charts anyway, but I really like having the little numbers. I think it is really beautiful to have to point stuff out. You know what I mean? So, you know, I'll try use it more next stream. But apart from that, I appreciate you all for being here. Thank you. And And obviously I looked at Sui as well. So that again, that's not financial advice, in my opinion. So I wouldn't say anything. I'm very happy about Syrup. I'm pretty happy about Solana, to be fair. Pretty happy about Solana. Ethereum, obviously, you know, a bit shaken up. It's like we knew it was going to come. It's like blowing up a firework and it's shooting up in the sky, and you know it's gone up. You know it's going up, and then it blows up, and it's like, whoa, that scared me. Even though you knew it was coming. So it's like we knew it was going to go up, but it's like, whoa, well, we're near the highs. We're not that far away from the high. So, you know, obviously we'll see. But obviously I'm going to keep an eye on it. I will see you guys on Saturday though. I said I was going to aim to do some yesterday, but I had more work to do on it, and I had some other work, so I didn't do anything yesterday for a quiz. But obviously we will also be back next Wednesday. Obviously this Wednesday it was a break from the quizzes, but we are going to be back for the routine triplet, obviously Maple, Full Swap, Mew quizzes. So we will be back doing them, and that will be obviously proceeding next Wednesday. I'll be back Saturday, and I'll be back Tuesday. I'll also be in Telegram. The likelihood chance I will be back in Telegram, considering what we've been doing and if we're actually doing what we're doing, and you know how we're moving. So we will see. I'll be back Saturday. I'm trying to post some. I have some videos I really want to do. So you might see me on the actual channel. You know, surprise there. You might actually see me doing a video on the channel. I know it's a rare occasion, but there is actually something I want to talk about. A bit more technical, which I think I would actually be good at talking about. So you might see me on the channel as well. Apart from that, I will see you next time. Thank you, each and everyone, for being here. Appreciate you all. Don't know why the stream didn't hit this stream. You know, just people. I think people heard about the pen and thought he's going to draw some stupid stuff on the charts. I'm not going to come along. So, good stream, mate. Thanks. Thank you. Appreciate it, KB. Thank you for always being here. Thank you, all of you, also for always being here. Kishan in Agendas. BB, obviously, have seen you quite commonly. Obviously, Tarufiki. I don't know, butcher your name. Thank you for being here. If it is your first time on the stream, Tariq was here as well. Thank you. Was Danny here? I think Danny. In the know was here. I don't know if he's said anything in a while, but yeah, appreciate you guys. Thank you. I will see you guys Saturday. I'll see you guys on Telegram, and yeah, enjoy the rest of Thursday. Enjoy Friday. Friday end of the week. You know, you're busy doing your thing. It's the last day before the weekend. And then what do you get as a reward for hitting the weekend? And, you know, and hitting Generals here, obviously. What do you get for being on Saturday and hitting the weekend? You get to see me again. So we will see. I will see you Saturday. We'll be back. I'm very, very intrigued to see how it goes, because it's very, it's very close. So we'll see how it goes. I'm stopping now. Thank you. Goodbye. guys.